Did I bury somebody underneath there? And I'm joking. I said, well, yeah, I did. Did y'all find them?
Tell me a little bit about how y'all got into real estate. How did you get into real estate?
Couldn't find a job.
Back when? Back in the 60s?
70s, late 70s. Started in 1980, November 1980. Used to be in the food distribution business, and we were bought out. And so Bill Hollingsworth came to me and said, why don't you sell real estate? So that's how I got in.
So Ross, how did you get in?
So I got in because it was the path of least resistance, is the way I looked at it. I took all the classes that the football players did at the University of Georgia and still couldn't get a 3.0. So when I graduated, I came back here, I could get a real estate license. So, and I had a lot more education from him probably than I did in Athens.
So Woody, did y'all want to team up together from the beginning, or did you want to see how kind of Ross enjoyed the business first?
Well, actually, both my sons came in originally, and one of them didn't like it, and that was fine. But Ross seemed to enjoy it and did very well. So, besides, we didn't want them living in the house anymore. So they needed to get their own job and go to work.
Right.
So, and we became a team, and I think it's been very good for both of us.
When I came in, I mean, it was really, it was 05, so it was really busy. So I'll never forget, he called me one time. We had a development that was it Whitney Point?
Right.
Whitney Point.
Place.
Whitney Place?
Whitney Place.
So he called me up, he's like, you gotta go down to meet these people down in Whitney Place. And so I get in the car and I'm driving down there, and they're there in the driveway. And so I realized on my way down there that I knew nothing about this house that we had listed. Like, I didn't know how much it cost, what the square footage was, I knew nothing. So we used to have these little books, and I was flipping through the book while I was driving down the road trying to find the house so I could figure out what it was. But so that's kind of how, I mean, he just was like, you go do this, you go do that.
Go handle it.
Right, and without a whole lot of instruction. So, and that was the first house I sold, and it was a strange situation. It was an older guy, and his son was there. He was a little odd too, and, but we were sitting there out in front, and I'd shown him the house. I asked the guy, so what do you think about the house? And the son stood there, and this is not exaggeration, he'd take this long draw off a cigarette, and he just says, I think this would be a good place to die. And they bought that house full price right then. And that was it. That was
Easy first sale there.
yeah.
Was that the guy that painted the driveway with a Q-tip swab?
That was in Walden Place.
Oh, Walden Place.
This was the guy that was up there, and when we were down in Walden Place,
Oh,
he
yeah,
was
yeah.
standing up on the patio,
Right.
singing and yelling, and then he would
Yeah.
just fall over.
Right, I remember
He
that
was a
guy.
strange bird.
So kind of along that lines, so kind of what is your probably funniest or unique story in real estate of somebody that's bought a house?
I had a physician who came to town, and he was wanting to look at some acreage property. So there was a 10-acre tract in Deerwood. I took him and his wife out there, and they were looking around at the house, and she starts expressing how much she likes it. It's an expensive house, and this is a long time ago. And we couldn't find him. We didn't know where her husband had gone. And I'm thinking, well, maybe he's walking the land or something like
Right.
that.
All
But-
10 acres.
So I'm up there, and I walk out on the screen porch, and I look down, and he is laying on a float in the pool. Kind of knew at that point I'd made the sale.
Right.
So they bought the property.
That was an easy close right there.
That was, well, none of them are really easy, but that one was probably very unique.
He lost a lot of his negotiating power.
Yes, he
I
did.
guess.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, when he started using the pool.
Yeah.
So, Ross, you've got any unique experiences that you've had in the business?
I shared a house one time in Murray Hills. When we walked in, the house had all these photos of, remember that shows on Hugh Hefner's like 3 girlfriends or whatever. I mean, he had those 3 girlfriends. He had all those photos of the girlfriends, and they were autographed and everything else. And I was walking the husband around, and I hear the wife yell from the other room, and we go into the room. She's opened the closet, and a fully inflated blow-up doll has come out of the closet and fallen on her.
Yeah.
We've had some interesting cases where we had a house on Raymond Avenue where they were doing an inspection and they found bones underneath it. Next thing I know, I got the police calling me on the telephone wanting to know that I buried somebody underneath there. And I'm joking. I said, well, yeah, I did. Did y'all find them? Well, this is not a joke. We're for real. And so I'm thinking, okay.
So Richmond County's finest came out
Richmond
to you.
County came out and said, whose bones are? I said, I have no idea. I never seen those bones before. But anyway, so we've had,
He sold that house, and then years later, it actually was the first house I ever bought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Did y'all disclose the bones after that?
He knew about the bones, but his biggest problem at that point was the lady who owned that house smoked on every other second. She was firing up a new one.
Just a chain smoker.
And he moved in that thing, and I mean, my God, it took months to get rid of that smell. But the good thing about it was it had wooden floors, so we were good. Anyway.
yeah, probably the craziest stories are the houses that I bought when I wouldn't tell my wife, and I would just buy the house and then bring her to it, and she would tell me how much she hated it, and I was like, well, I've already bought it. So,
For y'all to live in.
yeah. One of them we lived in for probably 10 years. She ended up liking that one a little bit. One of them she made me sell. One of them I still own, she'd never seen.
Probably the next one she's gonna get Woody to
No,
show
this
her
one,
to go
this one,
reverse
the one I
it.
live in now, she actually got to pick that one out. So.
Yeah, she likes that house.